So today we're going to talk about some of the strategies as far as how to do a counter argument. So you guys have already done 2 body paragraphs, or you should have done 2 body paragraphs so far. So you guys did your intro conclusion last week. That was due on Sunday. Then on Tuesday you did your body paragraphs 1 and 2. That was due last night. If you haven't done them, obviously if you turn it in today, you can still get 98%. But today we're going to work on our third body paragraph and a counter argument. And like I said, I know you've probably gone over counter arguments before, but I want to make sure that we talk about what my expectations are for it, and because every teacher has a little bit of a different expectation, though it won't be so different that you won't know what's going on. Okay, there we go. Okay, so basically, a counter argument is just to explain why you're better than other people. Maybe not in that arrogant of a tone, but it's definitely to prove you know what you're talking about. And even if other people disagree with you, why you're more right than the rest of the other people. So for a counter argument, it's basically you're saying that if somebody's wanting to contradict you, that's a counter argument. If they disagree with how you do something, that's a counter argument. So the only thing is, it's like you're making the argument for this essay that your 3 strategies are the best ones. The counter argument is, what's another strategy that somebody else would think is better than yours 3? So here are some examples of counter arguments. This is probably like the more extreme version of it. This is like a complete opposite. So for the argument, climate change is a real problem that we need to address to keep the planet habitable for humans and other species. So that's the main argument. Now, the counter argument, what other people would disagree with that, would say that the Earth is naturally warming, so climate scientists are exaggerating the effects that humans have on climate change. So again, you have like one extreme and the other, 2 opposite arguments. Now, there's other types of counter arguments that aren't always that extreme. So this example, they're basically making the same argument, but they're doing it in a different way. So the first argument is reducing the amount of plastics that the world uses will help solve the problem of plastic waste in the environment. The counter argument, finding more ways to recycle plastics, since a lot of what we put in the recycling bin will never truly be recycled, is the best way to solve the problem of plastic waste in the environment. Okay, so they're both talking about like the best way to reduce plastic waste and to help the environment out. So they're not opposite arguments, but they have different ways of trying to solve the same problem. So even though they're making the same argument, it's still a counter argument because they're presenting a different solution. All right, so for your topic sentence for your counter argument paragraph. So again, what's the point of the paragraph for this one? You're going to be talking about which rhetorical strategy, again, is different from the 3 that you chose. So if you said pathos, patriotism, and scare tactics were the best one, then why would somebody say that ethos is better than your 3 strategies? Why would they make that argument? So you would say that some people would argue that ethos is a more convincing or effective strategy than the 3 that I presented. So that's all you would need to do for your topic sentence. Okay, so for when you introduce your quote, how you setting up your quote is pretty similar to how you set up your quote in the other paragraphs. The only difference is that you're going to change a little bit at the beginning. So people who think that pathos is a more effective rhetorical strategy would point to the part of the play where Decius hears what blah, blah, blah. The rest of it I just kept the same as yesterday. So the only thing that you still want to tell me like what character is speaking. You want to tell me what's happening in the play. The only difference is you're like starting it off by saying people that think that pathos, because you're not making an argument for this example. You're saying other people would use this as an example to persuade you that their strategy is better, right? So you have to say, make sure that it's clear that this isn't your example, that this is another person's example. Other people would argue that this example is a better like quote than the ones I presented, but you just want to start it off the same way, but explain that it's another person's point of view. Okay, now explaining the quote is again a little different than the normal body paragraphs, because you're talking about what are they trying to prove? What is it that the other side is wanting to prove in that quote? So you're going to show me how the quote fits their strategy that they would use. So again, if they're talking about pathos, how would this quote fit into pathos? How would this strategy like fit into their argument? But the most important thing is that you need to explain that your strategies are better than this one, or that theirs isn't as good. So it's either that yours is better or theirs is just not as good. So that's what you want to explain after the quote. Why did they make this argument? But why are they wrong? Or why are you more right? Why are you more correct? Okay, for transitions in this paragraph is going to be shorter than your body paragraphs. How many quotes did you guys need for each of your body paragraphs? 2. Right. So you needed 2 quotes per body paragraph. The counter argument, you only need 1, because you don't want to prove that they're right. So you don't want to give a lot of examples proving that they're right. You only want to give 1 and point to why yours is better. So how do you transition and where do you do it in the counter argument? There's only 1 quote. So again, you don't need to transition to another quote like you do in the normal body paragraphs. So you won't have a transition in the middle of this paragraph. And this is the last paragraph before your conclusion, so you're not going to need to transition to another topic. Instead, what you're going to do is you're going to basically end explaining why ultimately you are more right than the counter argument. So here's an example. While patriotism was something effective in persuading the people of Rome, it is not the strategy that ultimately convinced them to follow Antony or Brutus. So again, if the counter argument, again, I know I've kind of switched back and forth, but if the counter argument was patriotism, this is how you would end it. You would say that while their rhetorical strategy was effective to some degree, it wasn't nearly as effective as the ones that I talked about earlier in my essay. And that's how you would end the paragraph. So if you look up here, the counter argument, or this is your third body paragraph, is identical to the other 2 that we did on Tuesday. So you just need a third strategy. Explain what the strategy is, give me your quote, explain the quote, transition, next quote, next explanation, and then transition to the counter argument. And then your counter argument, you'll notice, is a lot shorter, so less bullet points because you only have 1 quote. Again, topic sentence, introduce what their quote is and give the counter argument quote, and explain what their argument is and then why you're more correct. And then again, just end explaining why you're more correct or why ultimately your 3 strategies were the best. Okay, so that's what you're going to be working on today, is just those 2 paragraphs. And again, after that, you pretty much technically should be done with the entire essay. So this is the timeline for this week and next week for the essay. So what we're doing today, body paragraph 3 and the counter argument paragraph, are due tomorrow. So tomorrow by midnight. So whatever you don't get finished in class today, you'll need to continue working on today and tomorrow. The rough draft of this essay, so all the paragraphs we've done, you should have 6 paragraphs, will be due Monday night. Now, I am actually going to give you guys extra credit if you guys submit it a day early, your rough draft. So you'll get 10 points extra credit if you submit it Sunday night instead of Monday. Now, you won't get docked any points if you turn it in Monday because that's the actual due date, but you obviously won't get extra credit. So if you turn it in Monday, you won't lose any points. If you turn it in Sunday night, you'll get extra points. So I like to kind of give you guys an incentive to finish early and not wait to the last minute. The revision, we're going to be working on Tuesday for you guys, and then obviously Wednesday for my periods 4 through 6. But Tuesday next week, we're going to revise the rough draft, try and make it better. That's why I'm saying it doesn't have to be perfect when you turn it in. It does need to be complete, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So, because I do expect you to make some changes to it. And then your final draft will be due Friday. Next Thursday, we're not going to be working on the essay anymore. We're going to be working on the 20% project a little bit. So we're going to be setting up our website.